Stories from around the corner.
And around the country.
You're listening to All the Best.
Proudly supported by the Art Gallery of New South Wales.
You're listening to All the Best from FBI Radio 94.5, and I'm Kwame Slusher. In this episode, it is all about saying no. But first, I want to acknowledge that I'm recording from stolen and Gadigal land, and pay my respect to Gadigal elders past and present, and also recognize that the area where FBI Radio is situated, Redfern, has long been a place of storytelling, strength, resistance, and resilience for First Nations communities.
My name is Cher Tan. I'm an essays critic and editor. I edit Debris magazine with John Chia.
Yeah, and my name is John Chia. I'm an artist, writer, and editor, and I edit Debris magazine with Cher Tan.
I caught up with John and Cher just at the end of last year to discuss the latest issue of Debris magazine, issue 6, No. And I know you can't see it, but it's written capital N-O with an exclamation mark. Debris magazine is a biannual literary magazine here in Australia and in France. And if the publication sounds familiar, it's because last year we featured stories from issue 5, Prismatic Joy. Don't worry, I'll share links to those episodes in the show notes. Here's John and Cher talking about the issue.
We were friends before we started editing this magazine, and we have this intellectual camaraderie, I'd say, that we have brought into the sensibilities of this magazine that already is quite aesthetic and literary achievement in the Australian literary world. And it's awesome to be able to conceptualize a magazine from the theme all the way to the design with a friend and a co-worker, and to, you know, riff off ideas of one another, have laughs, have discussions. Editing this magazine is really fun with John.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same way. I mean, I think the ability to sort of test the limits of what we can do with a very simple format, essentially, with someone who I share such an affinity and so much shared ambition for the form and so much interest in what's possible, not just in the form as it exists, but in the ways that other art forms intersect with it as well, is really, really exciting. And also, yeah, we both have a kind of sense of humour as well that I think finds its way into each of the themes that we engage. The Urge to Know, which was the first issue that we worked on together, issue 3, which was 3 issues ago, as guest editors, was born of a private joke. And when we were invited back to edit this issue, we asked ourselves kind of if we thought of this as a sort of pseudo-trilogy, even if it's an in-joke between us, what comes after The Urge to Know? And also what sort of like captures the energy that flows from knowledge? And we thought about the implications of action that come with knowledge. And we also thought about the things that you feel compelled to reject or to push against. And we just kind of fell from the urge to know to simply no. And then it was no with an exclamation mark, because that has so much energy, and it's not the sort of cliche of refusal and rejection and silence and absence and all that stuff that you might think. But actually we want to recognize the potency of that energy, the way it's like putting your foot on a bench to launch off in the other direction, you know. It has like a kind of physicality that appeals to us.
I think from the top of my mind, one of the people that we wanted to commission from the get-go was this poet called Pai O. He's fairly well known in cult poetry circles in Nam especially. He's old, he's a Greek migrant, he's a working class anarchist, and he still publishes zines like up till today. And when we asked him, he said yes. It was wonderful. And he came out with this poem called the No Poem. And John also pointed out something which I've said many times, but it's such a delightful discovery that I have to say it again, which is his name Pi O, which is the pi mathematical sign, and O looks like no on the page. Yeah, a lot of like cheekiness to it, but also, being completely serious as well, which I think is very much how we ourselves operate as well. On top of these pieces, which are, maybe a bit more fun to read, there are also fairly somber ones, such as Dominic Guerrero, who wrote on the voice referendum and how he voted no as an Aboriginal man, and how the no vote was basically weaponized against Indigenous people, and that yes was basically an instrument towards neocolonialism. So that's a lot more somber, but also fit the theme too.
In this episode, you'll hear excerpts from some of the stories from this latest edition. And we'll start by imagining what an Australian town with no dogs might look like. Here's John and No Dogs by Luca Demetriadi.
A short story about a town that bans dogs after an unfortunate incident and then has to deal with the sort of demographic change of certain people leaving and other people arriving. There are all these sort of points of confusion and apprehension, which I think are really subtly funny.
Dan missed Dingo, but he got on with it. One by one, he converted the footpath dog poo bins into flower holders or communal herb beds, or, in one case, into a street library for the kids. At least there were still kids in Smallton. The remaining villagers didn't blame Dan for what Dingo had done, and Dingo was gone now, but Dan felt guilty. The village liked him, really. They'd long cultivated a friendly manner towards their workers. Dan did all their gardens, saved some retirees and stay-at-home spouses. Villagers would bring him cups of tea beneath the hydrangeas, plus biscuits for sweet Dingo. They'd ask after his missus. They'd see him down at the pub on Fridays and some weekends for the footy. Mums might swoon when he rocked a vest in summer. Good old Dan, his prices were fair. He was crying, though, as he put up the sign. No dogs, Smallton ahead, it read. Smallton only had one road into town that went straight out the other side. A sign at each end would do the trick. People rarely came through here anyway, unless they were visiting a grandparent or wanted to check out the golf course. Occasionally, a bird spotter from the capital would come past, hoping to find the pink robins along the forest trails before heading to the pub for a feed. Dan had made the signs from cedar, carved in the warning, painted them himself. It was the least he could do, he felt, and he couldn't let work dry up. He wiped his nose on his snood. After they lost poor Dingo, Dan's wife took off with Dingo's sister back to Grinstead, where they'd gone to high school together. Grinstead was the largest nearby town, with chain stores for Christmas shopping, cheap rental units, and abundant hospo jobs. She had been mortified, absolutely not staying, no chance, too embarrassing. But Dan felt that he had to. He had lawns to mow, and he loved working in Smallton's gardens, which had a size and splendour he'd never find in Grinstead's yards. He straightened the sign. A galah was digging for grubs nearby. Dingo would have spooked it off, but it just nodded at Dan. Both got back to work. Dan's lock screen was full of notifications when he sat in the van and unwrapped his cheese sandwich. Unknown numbers. Odd. All of the villagers were in his contacts. He unscrewed his thermos of Australian afternoon and let the steam into his nose as he always did. Swiped to delete the missed calls and started through the texts. One said,
"Hi, I found your number online. I just moved from the city and am looking for casual work. I'm a freelance graphic designer, so my hours are pretty flexible. Do you need any help at the moment? I like being outdoors and am a fast learner. I made a raised bed myself at my old place, and I can send references if you want. No worries if not, though. Either way, I'd love to have a chat. Got a garden project in the works. Thanks. Bug. They/them. The rest was similar. That old ad on the community page from when he twisted his knee and needed a hand. No one had responded back then. Dan could get behind a project, though, if it meant more hours. His work for the villagers had been feeling more precarious with the recent upheavals. The village was changing. Those without dogs had stayed, of course. The pensioners with their nest eggs, and the bankers who made their daily commute, while their kids grew up in relative bliss. Some people, too old to move, had passed their dogs over to younger relatives in the city. A handful, at least to Dan, seemed to value their properties more and gave up their pets quietly. Smolton's new population had grown into the gaps left behind. He put his phone on Do Not Disturb, finished up, and made his way to the pub. It was a Wednesday, but things had been chaotic.
You're listening to All the Best on FBI Radio 94.5, and I'm Kwame Slusher. And in this episode, you are hearing some stories from issue 6 from Debris magazine, edited by John Chia and Cher Tan. The next story deals with the trials and tribulations of being neurodivergent in a neurotypical world. Alex Creece pushes back and will not be confirming your peer-reviewed diagnosis. Here's John talking about Creece's piece.
Alex Creece's poem Grand Theft Autism is a sort of narration of a refusal to diagnose various people that approach them seemingly constantly in search of some kind of diagnosis because they publicly identify as autistic. And it's just really funny, and it's full of like that kind of bubbling energy that good poetry can really carry you on.
Grand Theft Autism by Alex Creece. Almost everyone who talks to me wants me to tell them if I think they have autism. I have that big autism, professional Martian, moon-eyed, spit-sheened, Nathan Fielder ripped through space, all big noises. Can't forget mouth breath, postmod grot, ugly headgear, etc. They get upset when I say, "Nah, I don't think so. I don't know. Maybe. I'm not a doctor. I support you regardless. Sorry, I just don't know. Never thought so. Not really. Sorry. Oh fuck, sorry. Was that rude? Yeah, likely. Sorry? I guess?" My answer's doomed to offend. Cry out like a quiz show buzzer. Cannot hide the honk of my guts. Just tell me what you want. Call me a villain, cold, clumsy, cunt. Unless there's another word for it. Are they dreading yes, or will they ghost me, seething from a well-intended no? Is I don't know ever good enough? I'm not an autismologist, autician, autocrat, barely an autumnal delight. Just always wanted to be someone worth talking to. But now my only authority is being big disabled, ever since I was my smallest self. Truth be told, I'm thinking about some poem I read, a creature I loved. What will happen next? Some ridiculous noise I'm grinding against my molars. Secret bubble gum popping in my ears. The way Anko brand bubble bath clings to my skin. how desperately dependent I am. Taxpayer in one breath, and the taxpayer's burden in another. I'm thinking about the shape of your eyebrows, what they might possibly mean. Observing from behind forests, hearing you as Charlie Brown's teacher. When can I fucking rest? Why is it so scary to fill the space wrong? Scribbling the convo outside the lines, muddying the colour palette, smearing Y2K lipstick, stinging on the chapped Cupid's bow of our friendship, cataloguing my social experiments. Not grand, horrible, ambitious ones like maths or eugenics, but like one where I try to order coffee at a cafe successfully, feeling good when I do. Just let me put a bacon smile below your weepy egg eyes, oozing out all your unhatched twinkles. Let me let you down sometimes, like milk from mastitis squeezing through cheesecloth. Scientists want me, friends blank me, seriously. Please fill in the blank. I'm not easy to talk to, just sweaty and gormless, glistening pork fat for dummies. I don't want to be rendered down to a DIY doctor. Do people even like me? Or am I just a DNA sequence to compare against? On the question of whether I think you're autistic, the answer is
You're listening to All the Best, proudly sponsored by the Art Gallery of New South Wales on FBI Radio 94.5, and I'm Kwame Slusher. And in our third and final piece by Claire Cao, an actor's personal assistant wades through the blurred boundaries of life, work, and performance on the day she's going to quit.
In her inbox, Harry had forwarded a screenplay. Straight in the bin or okay? H. Amy sighed. In the fledgling days of Harry's now defunct production company, Amy had told him in lofty tones that she hoped to be a filmmaker one day. Since then, as an afterthought, he had sent her screenplays accompanied by little notes. This might inspire you. It had once been exhilarating to receive those skeletal stories, written by both the inexperienced and the jaded. Documents threaded with fractured couples, over-ambitious gunfights, waterlogged corpses washing ashore, and simmering beneath, the storyteller's desperate hope to be seen. She scrolled through this one while doing her makeup for the night, and decided it was an unremarkable family drama with unremarkable explorations of alcoholism and late-age polyamory. Staid narrative aside, Amy thought Harry would be a good fit for the oldest son, an uptight businessman, battling debt and his sexuality. Despite Harry's half-hearted affairs with men in his life, he appeared constipated acting opposite them on screen. This had the roundabout effect of working out for him. Throwaway lines like, Harry Wall delivers an efficient study of repression and fear, studded the critics' reviews. As a girl, Amy had been entranced by such performances. In one global fantasy hit, he played an elvish prince that was widely beloved both for his windswept mane and for his tragic fate. Near the climax, Amy's friends had bunched together in front of the telly, captivated. The prince was chained to a post, awaiting execution. The band of heroes battled their way out of the catacombs as the orchestral score swelled. Amy found herself transfixed by the prince's clenched jaw, the defiant set of his shoulders. Then there was the merest ripple in his expression, a sudden vacancy in his eyes that Amy caught. Both she and the prince knew in that second that there would be no 11th hour rescue. The arrows came sailing. Outrage cleaved through the group of preteens who howled in unison as the prince dissolved into a childlike quivering, tears welling and streaming as he was shot with more and more arrows, thousands of them. All Amy could think about was that tiny moment of change, where she understood exactly what the prince was communicating and where his abject defeat had become her own. Years later, even after Amy had become privy to Harry's allergies, his affairs, his onset meltdowns, the scene hadn't lost its power. She sometimes pulled it up on her phone, tucked into the covers at night, and found her eyes prickling. Though Harry was playing a version of himself, repression and fear, he had felt wholly displaced by the elvish prince's emotions. Amy herself felt wholly displaced too, a vessel for an epic tragedy that was larger than them both.
You're listening to All the Best on FBI Radio 94.5, and I'm Kwame Slusher. The stories you heard today were excerpts of written pieces in the latest issue of Debris magazine. They were No Dogs by Luca Demetriadi, Grand Theft Autism by Alex Creece, and Personal by Claire Cao, and sound design was by Mel Bakewell, Felicity Weaver, and Catarina Fraga Matos. Head to our show notes for more info on Debris magazine and where you can grab your own copy. And if you'd like to be part of our community or just want to keep up with the events or audio club or catch up on some of our latest episodes, then check out our show notes for a link to our Substack. And if you enjoyed this episode, then keep listening to All the Best for unique stories from independent audio makers from so-called Sydney and around the country. Definitely catch our live radio broadcast on Sundays at 9:30 a.m. on FBI Radio 94.5. We also release a brand new episode every Tuesday at 4 p.m. on allthebestradio.com, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Follow us now so you never miss an episode. All the Best would like to acknowledge the traditional owners on the lands in which we make these stories, and pay our respects to elders past and present. All the Best is made on FBI Radio on Gadigal land, in association with Sin and 3RRR and Wurundjeri Woiwurrung and Boonwurrung lands, and ACCC on Arrente and Wirramungu lands. The All the Best executive producer is Mel Bakewell. Catarina Fraga Matos is our events and partnerships coordinator. Patrick McKenzie is our community coordinator. And a special shout out to all our amazing volunteers who help to make All the Best possible. Shining Bird composed our theme music and Annie Hamilton designed the artwork. We're heard across Australia on the Community Radio Network, and we're made possible by the Art Gallery of New South Wales and the Community Broadcasting Foundation. You can find our full archive of more than 600 episodes on allthebestradio.com. I'm Kwame Slusher. Thank you so much for listening.